Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Johnny Olive. Tonight we've got a story which starts with a big surprise. Last week, Joyce Bateman, the Conservative MP for Winnipeg South, did something unspeakable. She attended an open public debate with her opponents. Think about that, a Conservative MP turning up for a debate. That almost never happens. That's even less likely to happen than Donald Trump saying something intelligent, or Wayne Gretzky walking past a product without endorsing it. I mean, really, how often does that happen? It never happens. During the event, which took place at the Asper Jewish Community Campus, Bateman experienced boos and cries of shame. Well, this happened because during a discussion on the economy, she listed individuals' names of liberals, including MPs, calling them enemies of Israel. That's what she looks like. That's an actual photograph. We didn't alter it. She really looks like that. She really does. In an article in the Free Press, Dan Lett, who also mediated the event, said it had a McCarthyesque blush to it. And the names were read quickly and without any information establishing the veracity of the charges against individuals named. It was a truly creepy moment. Bateman said after the event that she was completely blindsided by the Jewish audience's open hostility to her pro-Jewish comments. After all, this approach had worked so well at previous Conservative-only meetings. There are a lot of things that don't work outside of a Conservative setting, like children of billionaires, and maybe, next year, postmen and CBC employees. Well, if Harper gets in again, they may never work again. By making these statements, Bateman has to completely ignore the public fact that all other parties have voiced support for Israel, with only some criticisms regarding some human rights issues. By reading out the names of Israel's critics, identifying them by name, and then calling them enemies of Israel, was an attempt to cause division between Jews and anyone who finds human rights violations abhorrent. To demonise and marginalise non-conservatives in a reds-under-your-beds McCarthyite fashion. Let's be honest, the only thing that you should ever be scared of that might be under your bed is the bogeyman, and those awful slippers your wife's aunt brought for you last Christmas. Those were horrible. So why was Ms Bateman surprised at the reaction that her list reading received? Quite simply, because most of her audience had a mental age older than 5. Consider this analogy. 2 kids in Texas, Mikey and Jane. They are the best of friends. Jane takes Mikey's candy cane. Mikey screams to his mother, "Mum! Jane tried to kill me! She's a murderer!" This is a language tool known as hyperbole. It is exaggeration for the purpose of making a subtle point easier to understand. At least that's how honest people use hyperbole. Using a hyperbole but stating it as a dry fact is distorting the truth. But this kind of rhetoric is not only ignorant, it's dangerous. Think of the example of Jane and Mikey. Should people be calling Jane a murderer when she only stole a candy cane? And face execution? Well, maybe in Texas she probably would, so not a great example, I guess. By definition, if you state hyperbole as fact, then you are lying. I'm not saying it, the dictionary is. And any honest, intelligent person who is over the age of 5. It all comes down to oversimplification of language and the elimination of nuance. Don't know what nuance is? No? Well, here's a few words for the nuance impaired. Namely Joyce Bateman, the Conservative Party of Canada, the Republican Party, all fascist and communist dictators who have ever or will ever exist, and of course, the Fox News Network. Are you nuance impaired? Yes? Then you've come to the right place. You know how you think there are only 2 colors? Black and white? Well, there are actually many more. Imagine you have 2 containers of paint and a piece of paper. Paint black on one side of the paper and white on the other. Now put just a splash of white paint into the black paint, mix it and brush some onto the paper next to the black. See how it's a little bit lighter? Now repeat the process over and over again. You see those colors between the black and the white? They are called grays. Now say it with me. Gray. Great job, well done. Imagine that the black represents caring friends and white represents enemies. Enemies being people who want to kill you. When someone criticizes a country on human rights issues, but they don't want to kill them, well then they'd be in one of the grey areas. That's where we get the term from, grey areas. Canadian leaders for sure would be a very dark shade of grey. See how far from being enemies they are? They're only one shade away from being caring friends, not even close to being enemies. This is what rational, honest people refer to as nuance. Justin Trudeau has said, the issue of Israel where we most disagree as Liberals with Mr Harper is that he has made support for Israel a domestic political football, when all three of us support Israel and any Canadian government will. The nuance in there is that Liberals are closer to agreement with Harper than disagreement on this issue. But for the nuance impaired, that's like one shade away from being friends. Bateman released a statement the following day saying, "I am proud to be part of a party that stands firmly with Israel. Under Prime Minister Harper's leadership, Canada remains resolute in our commitment to defend Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state." Did you catch that? This time the hyperbolic rhetoric was a little bit subtler, but still stated as fact. For the nuance impaired, that's no greys and one big lying exaggeration. The real lie is the clear inference that none of the other leaders are committed to defend Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, and that, as the previous quote from Justin Trudeau demonstrates, is a blatant falsehood. Bateman further stated that it's a choice between standing up for Canadian values in a dangerous world or returning to the days of going along to get along. Now, is she referring to the Canadian values of being warlike and inflexible, black or white, good or evil, total obedience and kowtowing to the leadership class in every detail, or be declared outright enemies, divisive and warmongering good, diplomacy and compromise bad? While we're on the subject, let's look at Bateman's history in standing firm for her own values, shall we? Now, Bateman was a long-term member of the Liberal Party. She switched to the Conservative Party due to fiscal policies. But where did her other values go? Apparently, she was in favour of all that Liberals stood for at the time, except for money. Read her Wikipedia page and see how her love for Canadian values led her to taking credit for other people's work. We've included a link in the description. No, really, read it now. It's not very long. Impressed? Haha, me neither. This us versus them rhetoric is actually harming Canada's Jewish community. Liberal candidate Anthony Housefather, who is Jewish, said that at a local synagogue a woman said to him, "I'm shocked to hear you don't like Jews." Housefather said this profoundly hurt him. No f***ing doubt. One could say that calling some Jews enemies of Israel could be considered a certain kind of baiting, and baiting it is, and not the good kind of baiting that leads to landing a nice fish and then serving it with a wonderful pile of greasy chips with lemon and tartar sauce and, oh man, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. In her defence, Bateman only did what neocons do when they're in a tough fight. They lie and hope no one fact checks. And if someone does, then double down. Nothing says I've got the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old better than restating a lie over again. Mummy, I didn't eat the chocolate cookies. I didn't eat the chocolate cookies. I didn't eat the chocolate cookies. But your face is covered in chocolate. It's all over your face. So I invite you to join me in expressing your distaste for this practice by using this hashtag, BatingBateman. Post something to Joyce Bateman's Facebook page and tell her what you think. Include a link to this video. While you're at it, why not post it to all the Conservative candidates' pages? Tweet it. Put it on your own timeline. Let's see if we can't rid this nasty little bit of McCarthyite nastiness from Canadian politics. Well, that's the end of this special edition of Harperland News. I'm Johnny Olive. See you next time. Good night.